mission is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. Technology can shape growth, help us be more agile. We can use technology to change, disrupt the landscape of the industries that we participate in. Building technology so that others can build technology and make things happen. Our success is not dependent on our products. It's dependent on the success that our customers, our partners have with our products. It's really not about our ambitions, but it's the application of our ambitions so that we can deliver digital transformation. I want you to envision what difference can you make to shape the world.
Welcome, partners, to the panel, Strategies from the Titans of Sales and Industry. Today is our last show of FY18, fiscal year 18. This is the last day in the quarter. I want to say thank you so very much, sincerely. If you got my note that I sent in earlier, sincerely, thank you so very, very much for attending these calls. We really hope that you've been able to learn something, you've been able to bring something to this table to share, you've been able to network with your fellow partners within our community. And we're just so excited, to be able to bring you this type of medium. We will be starting again in the first week of August. So we actually are taking a full month off for July. We have Inspire, we have meetings, we have planning. There's just so much to do in July that we want to do this. And then we're also changing the format just a little bit, where it's going to be, just for managed partners, but it's going to be national managed partner call. So it's going to be kind of neat. So you're going to be able to hear and network and talk and listen to, and also ask questions, with other partners across the country. I want to just kind of iterate a couple things. We use these calls to be interactive, right? And we always have like these little issues that come up. It's kind of, we're always so stressed out right before the show starts, right? So we have some special guests that are going to be interviewed, and if you need to ask them questions, go ahead and send them through the IM window, the text window, and then they can actually text back through. We are having just a small technical difficulty with bringing audio in from the Skype for Business thing. We're moving formats to going to be Skype broadcast. It's going to be a little bit more open, but the nice thing about that too is that you'll still have the Q&A involved, so we have no problem with that. And the actual visual portion of it will be much better. You can maximize it and have it on your whole computer. Then you can actually see the PowerPoints that are coming in. All right, so the call is going to be a little bit different today. We're going to be doing some interviews. We have some interviews in the field, so it's not like we just in studio type of stuff. We actually have the great Kat Daniels, who you did see in the introductions. Kat, can you just say hi to the audience?
Good morning, Sherman.
Thank you very much, Kat.
Hey, the audio works.
Yeah. So Kat, is I tell you, in my estimation, one of the absolute very best partner development managers in the country, and we're actually very, very lucky to have her on today, as well as going out in the field getting interviews. So next year too, it'd be kind of neat. We're gonna I'm gonna start coming out there, and so is Justin and Joshua, meeting you and actually doing interviews in person and getting them up on here. We want to help build your brand. So I think the first choice would be to try to get into a Microsoft Technology Center, so we can actually do these under the bright lights in the big city, or at the beach where I'm at right now. I'm going to go surfing right afterwards. just I got the surfboard right behind me. Take off the suit. I can't really go surfing with the suit on, right? But you come in and we can help your brand with that. So all right, so let's take a look at the agenda. We want to maximize your ROI for Inspire, right? That's we still say register before it's too late. We got 2 weeks. Before we get there, it's going to be amazing. And I was just talking to another partner of mine that he's like, well, should I go? Is it going to be worthwhile? And I said, absolutely. Send an engineer and then send a sales and marketing person. That's 2 people to it, so that they can get best of both worlds. There's a technical track and there's a sales and marketing track. But where the money really hits the road, or hits I don't know, where the rubber meets the road. I think not the money hits the road, where the rubber meets the road. Really comes down to networking, on that, and making those connections, with that. So I don't know, Kat, do you have any thoughts, about Inspire, maybe to help build the ROI?
Yeah, I mean, it's all on how you plan things out, right? One of the things that I'm really excited about this year with Inspire, looking at the list of topics that are going to be discussed, they've really made an effort to focus on profitability. So not just, okay, this is how you're going to be profitable selling Skype for Business or Teams or one of the other sort of lines of business for Microsoft, but there's 3 or 4 sessions focused on the Citrix partnership, which a lot of partners use Citrix for remote desktop sessions, and really focusing on what that roadmap looks like, and then how you can package those together in solutions that you can offer your customers. So that's the thing that I'm most excited about, is going to some of those sessions that look at how Microsoft incorporates all these different technologies together in a final solution that you can offer your customers. And even if the conference ends up costing, let's say, $3,000 to $5,000, that's a worthwhile investment, because if you can build up a new practice and launch that with your customers, you're going to make that back, the first deal that you close.
That's fantastic. So we have Eric in studio here, and Eric, I just want you to share your story from last year and how the ROI was literally built in one fell swoop.
Oh gosh, a couple of things that came out of last year that that pay for the trip, that make the trip that much more valuable. But I've talked about the fact that I was able to have a professional recording, much like we do here in the studio here in Irvine, but being shot, being prompted by the Microsoft marketing folks. They took all of the content, they edited it down into just a couple of minutes of sound bites, and that now is the featured video that's on the front page of my website. And to do that, to have that done professionally, would have cost probably somewhere, I estimated it out doing a little bit of research, somewhere probably on the order of $4,000 to $5,000 to have that done. So Microsoft doing that for me absolutely pays for the value of the trip. On top of that, the networking that comes out of Inspire. I've had business come to me throughout the course of this last year that came directly from people that I met at Inspire last year. A large distribution partner came to me. I had never worked with them before, but they were looking for some help with a particular solution. They came to me. Those opportunities came because of the folks that I met at Inspire. So there's no question about the value and the networking value that takes place out there. I certainly encourage all of the partners to be there. And then, of course, I always do this. I shamelessly plug IAMCP. So if I can get a couple of seconds on that. But, everybody wants to meet with some of the Microsoft executives. This year at Inspire, you have a tremendous opportunity, if you're an IAMCP member, to be in small group sessions with a bunch of the Microsoft executives. We've got Brad Smith in several sessions. We've got, let's see, Gretchen O'Hara. We've got Dave Willis. Steve Guggenheimer, laundry list of Microsoft executives, and you're in a room with no more than 30 to 50 people with these folks, an opportunity to ask them questions and get one-on-one. It is an exclusive benefit right now for IAMCP members. So if you wanted to participate in those, I certainly encourage you. If anybody wants more information on those, I know everybody's got my contact information from previous sessions, but I'm eric.klaus, eric.klauss at partnersource-it.com.
All right. So with that being said, what would you think your investment is? Let's say you spent $4,000. That's about right, about $4,000 last year.
Yeah.
Okay, because in totality. So that's the conference pass, 2,400, or depending on how much you had to pay for your hotel, your drinks, your meals, if you ate anything. Because actually, Inspire has breakfast and lunch.
Yeah. Food you don't worry about. Food you don't worry about. Drinks you don't really worry about much either. Those are pretty well taken care of at the parties and all the stuff. So it's mostly your badge is your biggest cost. And then travel and info.
Yeah, but what do you think is your ROI though? I mean, like, how much business did you bring in because you just went there?
Think about that. For most partners, an investment of let's call it $4,000. Let's call it. For most of us, one client is worth more than $4,000. You get one client, you get one referral from one partner, and it closes, and your ROI is more than 100%.
Yeah.
That's the reality, folks. That's what it comes down to. So why do you want to invest in going? It's build those networking connections. You want something else out of that? The best practices that you get from attending Inspire, the other partners that you can meet with, the ability to connect with people from across the country who maybe do the same thing that you do, but let's face it, not everybody, we don't all operate our businesses the same way. Take some best practices from some of the other people that you work with who do similar to what you do, but do it somewhere else in the country. I know a partner who they do a tremendous amount of business working with companies that are moving from one part of the country to another. They do a lot of move business. And so they're constantly networking with partners from other parts of the country because those partners may have a client or a prospect that they talk to where the company's moving from one part of the country or they're opening a new office here in California and they want to get that business. The partner out here wants to get that business. So they network with those people like crazy just for those opportunities. Because let's face it, those types of move type of situations, those are typically tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars in services to be provided to those organizations. So those are the kinds of opportunities that you can pick up by networking out at Inspire as well. It's huge, and I can't undervalue the investment. It sounds like a lot to most of us because we're small business owners, and we think, gosh, throwing $4,000 or $5,000 maybe. And look, you know, Justin's numbers. I know Justin did a LinkedIn article on this where he even estimated if you factor in the opportunity cost, it's even higher than that because, of course, you're out of the office for a number of days. But again, I go back to if you get one deal that comes out of all of that networking, with this year 40 to 50,000 people going to be at Inspire this year, I think there's an opportunity there for anybody who should be considering going to say, gosh, it makes a lot of sense to be there.
Awesome. Thanks so much. That's a really great explanation of that. All right. So maximizing your ROI is the key thing. Get to Vegas. Get to the Inspire conference. Yeah, on Wednesday, we forecast 50,000 people in Vegas. It's a combination of both flying in all these Microsoft executives and partners. It's going to be amazing, absolutely amazing. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the tip of the week. We're going to have my friend Jason mute his phone because he's in my ear and he's buzzing somewhere. It's like he's at a NASCAR race or something. I don't know. All right, tip of the week. Very simple. Okay, maximize your ROI. Okay, that's pretty simple. That's it. Tip of the week. Maximize your ROI. Come to Inspire. Dreamers are the ones that talk about what they're going to do, and leaders are the people who do what they talk about. That's my saying. That's my motto. That's what I believe in, and I believe that everybody here are absolute leaders in the industry. And thank you so much again for going. All right, so let's get into the next thing is really digital transformation, and I want to just have Kat just kind of like set this up a little bit, and then we're going to go and introduce our first guest, and then we'll roll into roll one, our very first video. So Kat, do you want to set this up? All right, Kat, would you like to go ahead and set up digital transformation?
Yeah, absolutely. So my first interview is with So it's basically talking about how partners have used technology to transform their businesses. So that's probably one of the biggest success stories. It's not only how you guys are doing new and exciting things for your customers, but how you're doing new and exciting things for yourselves. How you're taking access to all this technology and all these tools that Microsoft provides and being able to do something really unique and special with your business. And so the first interview we have is with Emilio Chamali. He's a director at MRE Consulting, and they've done something really, really neat with Power BI and incorporated it into their business practice. And the result of that has, sort of maximized the engagements they have with existing customers, but also opened up new opportunities for them. So we'll go ahead and roll the video. It's about a 10-minute interview. And then Emilio is in the Skype meeting. So if you have any questions for him, you can type those into the IM window. So good morning, Kat Daniels with Microsoft, and this is Emilio Chamali with MRE Consulting here in Houston. And today we're talking a little bit about MRE and their journey as a Microsoft partner. Now, we first met a year ago in Washington, D.C. at the WPC conference. Can you talk a little bit about why MRE Consulting was there?
Yes, absolutely. We primarily focus in the energy, trading, and risk management sector, and we have a large technology practice. But we soon realized that the only way to stay competitive and differentiate ourselves from similar vendors in our space was to create intellectual property or IP that was unique to us. Mm-hmm. And we started developing many different types of IP, for example, related to Azure, related to SQL Server assessments, related to Exchange assessments, related to infrastructure assessments. And we found ourselves in a situation where we really needed more information from Microsoft that we could get on our own. Mm-hmm. When we started attending WPC, we started making a lot of contacts with folks who actually developed a lot of these products and a lot of the tools that we were using. It was incredibly valuable, though, to be able to talk with people who knew the technology so well and in depth. Mm-hmm. As a consequence of that, every trip from WPC we made back to the office was crazy because we had so much more knowledge about what we were going to do and so much more focus. And we were just so much more productive. So a lot of the lessons that we learned at WPC, we applied immediately to our tool sets. Mm-hmm. Now our tool catalog has grown. Now these are not necessarily tools that we sell retail. These are tools that we use ourselves to be able to create value for the customer. And we do that by accelerating the time it takes to do a high quality assessment in the particular area mm-hmm. that we're gonna target.
That's definitely a reason for partners to go to WPC or Inspire as it's now known. Mm-hmm. So talk to me about one of those engagements. Do you have an example customer that you guys worked with where coming into that conversation with something that MRE developed in-house led to a better quality conversation?
Yes, absolutely. We traditionally come into play where customers have done a lot of legwork, a lot of research. They have a rough idea of what they're looking for mm-hmm. to do. However, they do face challenges. For example, we were working with two large clients of ours which were merging with each other. They had several tools in their catalog already installed, deploying, gathering data. Mm-hmm. However, they were having difficulties combining this data and identifying if the data they were collecting was accurate or not. So we took a step back. We saw what they were trying to do. We understand that they wanted to, for example, do infrastructure and Azure discovery. Mm-hmm. We brought in one of our key pieces of intellectual property, which is called Audix, and we were able to, in just 1 week, gather our own data set, not relying on the tools that they already had in place. Really what we wanted to do was do an unbiased snapshot of what they had. Mm-hmm. Once we had that in place, the type of conversation completely changed with the customer. It was no longer about an assessment. It's about what do you think you have versus what do you think versus what you actually have. And
because those are usually two completely different things.
Very different. So what the conversations that we have now are about consolidation, reduction of cost, reduction of complexity, simplification of the management of the environment, the ability to lift and shift equipment and virtualize it and put it in Azure, for example. Reduce the number of SQL Server instances, reduce the number of Exchange instances, or move to O365, for example. So the type of conversations become more strategic. Before it was more tactical. And I personally find it more valuable. I feel the customer finds it more valuable when we lay out a strategy before them, and then we follow up with the tactical. And then we accelerate it with our intellectual property.
So talk to me about your own sort of journey along this process, because you've sort of grown up with Power BI. I know you started doing the data analytics, and now you're getting into some of the advanced functions, looking at things like Azure Machine Learning. How have you sort of developed your own skill set as the technology in the market has changed?
It's, nothing beats education, so you have to put in the effort. It's been great. I've had a tremendous amount of fun. When we first started, one of our pieces of intellectual property relies heavily on Power BI. I discovered Power BI at WPC. We didn't even know the product was out. And that's another reason why we like going, is because we find out before most people.
What's on the horizon.
What's on the horizon. So we started embedding, we particularly started focusing on Power BI Embedded, which was almost no one knew anything about it at the time. We connected with some Microsoft engineers, and we were able to actually use Power BI Embedded in our product as an embedded BI solution, and we couldn't find anything in the market that had the price point that made sense for a SaaS product to do that. In terms of my personal journey, it's just really, I've been following the Microsoft Analytics path and watching closely how Azure is evolving. First with Office 365, adding visualization was key. And then how Microsoft is investing in HD insights, into big data, into streaming analytics, and how Azure is combining everything together in a single platform in the cloud. For me, it's a lot easier to tell that story to a client, because they don't have to combine pieces from different vendors and have accountability distributed across multiple sales and account managers. With the analytics solution that I sort of educated myself in, it's very easy for me to work with folks like you, where you can connect us with people that know what we are trying to do, and they can help us very quickly. So, definitely the education journey does not end here. We're really looking to get more and more into the IoT space now. We have a foundational component in one of our IPs that we can leverage using Microsoft Machine Learning and data analytics and the Azure Data Lake. It seems like all the blocks are there. You just have to come up with, listen to customers, see what they're trying to solve, and then use these building blocks to create a solution. And then have your Microsoft partner, I understand you have a Microsoft partner there to help you be successful and help your customer be successful.
So that's really interesting. You mentioned, sort of IoT and the future of a lot of those things. One of the demonstrations that was at Inspire last year was a brewery that was using IoT to basically be able to look at brewing temperatures and gain some business insights out of that. And one of the interesting things I learned from y'all is that you're an investor in a brewery here in Houston. So, talk to me about what the experience was like. You have MRE, you have a successful company, and now you're taking those learnings into a new venture and sort of diversifying what you guys are doing. So what did that kind of look like? It's
a little bit crazy, because you have all this knowledge and all this capability, and you just want to apply it everywhere. You just want to make sure everybody knows about it and is being used and leveraged properly.
Azure is managing your closet.
And then the next thing to do is having an AI engine create your brew recipe, right? Which is where this is headed. It's been great. It's just, the opportunities are so infinite. As engineers, we have to wrangle ourselves back and then put the strategic hat back on and say, okay, what provides the most value for the amount of investment that is desired to be put in, and the amount of return on investment that is desired to get out of it. But the good news is we have such a catalog of services available that for us is very easy to, for example, in the case of the brewery, is leverage data that is already there, that whether you're using it or not, the data is there. Might as well use it and learn from it and help other people know what to do with data. You know, once you become really good at understanding what the data is trying to tell you.
Yeah, and that's the piece that's always interesting, because there's this perception that as Azure machine learning or machine learning in general becomes more mature, somehow the human element is going to be taken out of that. And it's actually the opposite case, because you need someone who understands the business and understands what the data is saying to be able to make a determination on what to do next. The data by itself doesn't do anything. It's in a vacuum, in a silo, and it takes someone like you with business experience to go and interpret that data.
I agree. I think there's a lot of hype around the fear of AI. I think the opportunities that are going to be created for the job opportunities are going to be quite surprising to many people, especially like you mentioned, there are new roles being created. For example, there's a machine learning engineer role. Everybody's heard about the data scientist role, but there are also machine learning engineers that are being created. What do these folks do? They work at data scientists, they develop algorithms. They're 80% programmers, 20% data people. And you mentioned something very key is understand the business. 80% of our work, of our purpose, is to understand what the business pain is that the customer has. And then we come in, talk to them about that pain. That's part of the strategy, is what are you trying to solve? I have a hard time thinking that automation is going to get rid of that conversation. That's a human conversation that has to happen. And again, I cannot emphasize education, because things are getting, technologies are getting more commoditized, but nothing beats being well versed in what you're trying to do to make sure you get your customer solution very quickly delivered.
Absolutely, because they don't have time to educate themselves. They're relying on you to do it.
Absolutely, and what we're doing by creating this intellectual property is simply accelerating the time it takes to give them that insight. We want to step out of the traditional engagement that could take, possibly even weeks or months to deliver an answer. What we're doing is accelerating that answer so that they can take action a lot quicker.
Absolutely, because the market will support a certain dollar amount, whether it's an Azure assessment, an Exchange migration. There's a sort of known dollar amount in the market of what you can charge for those type of services, and the more you can reduce your cost of sale and the faster you can deliver those solutions, the more profitable and more healthy your business is. Absolutely.
And again, it's about survival, not just competitive survival, but it's actually to deliver the value, right? If technologies are like machine learning, like AI, are so commoditized, the level of entry the barriers of entry are really low now. We started this journey about 3.5, 4 years ago, and it's paid wonders for us. Now, there's a big cost to pay because you have to multitask a lot and learn a lot, but back to education, right? All that
you're
benefits.
Usually juggling about 3 plates when I talk to you on the phone.
But at the end of the day, the customer has a much better experience. You have a much better experience. And when you're offering a solution and the customer is happy with it, you go home, you get your dollar. Yes.
Well, that's absolutely outstanding. Emilio, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you,
today.
Kat. It's my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Well, hey, that was a great interview, and really do appreciate it. So, Kat Daniels, who you see to the top right-hand corner, you see right there. Hello. Wait. Let's see. There you go. That's her. It's backwards here. It's kind of tough to how do you, which way did she go?
It's your other right.
But that's, Emilio Shamali, and I think that's really great insight, analytics, data AI, picking up your bootstraps, right? Any final thoughts or any thoughts that you want to kind of, let the audience know about, Kat?
Yeah, well, so 2 things. One, I think Emilio hit on it several times. I think it's important, you get caught up in work and you get caught up in family, and it's really hard to set aside, an hour a week or an hour a day to focus on development and learning new things. And you really, you just take for granted those opportunities. And so if you can build that time into your schedule, not only is it beneficial for you and your individual path, but really can help launch new things within your company. And then the other thing I want to mention, because we don't mention it in the video, the name of the brewery that those guys are a co-owner of is 11 Below Brewing. It's in Houston, Texas. They specialize in stouts and IPAs. So if you guys make it down to Houston for an event, that's something that you need to take a look out for.
All right. That is fantastic. All right, so why don't you go ahead and set up, our next interviewee, our next guest. It's a great one. It's an absolute great video. I watched it 3 times. It was really fantastic. But I'll let you set it up for the audience, and then we'll go straight into that interview.
Sure. So the next interview is with Ton from AccuData Systems. He's their data center practice manager. And what's really interesting about these guys is that they primarily focus on the state of Texas, and they have a pretty substantial hardware practice, mostly focused around Cisco. And so they're starting to incorporate these different elements and starting to branch out from sort of their safety zone into newer technologies like cloud, partly in response to some of their customers, sort of inquiries, but also they have this vision of being able to provide all these services to their customers and being able to do that in a secure way. So it's really interesting to see how they're pivoting their business from, what was a traditional hardware resale model to this cloud services model, and coming up with some sort of really neat and cutting edge solutions that they're offering to their customers. So we're going to hear from Ton and some of the things that he's focusing on and some of the technologies that he's looking out for in the future.
All right. Let's go ahead and roll 2.
Good morning from the AccuData office in Houston. I'm Kat Daniels, and with me is Tom from AccuData, one of the data center architects. And we're talking today about digital transformation. So one of the things that's been really interesting working with AccuData is that you guys internally have gone through a bit of a digital transformation. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think AccuData's digital transformation has really followed in the footsteps of our customers. What we find internally is we've adopted the cloud for very similar reasons. We wanted to decrease operational burden on our IT team. We wanted to increase agility. We have these really short-term projects where we want to do proof of concepts for our customers, where we want to do training. And it was very difficult and expensive for us to buy that equipment. So we found the cloud as a great place for us to invest time, training, to enable our own internal folks to get exposure to the cloud and really deliver services for our customers. And that path has really paralleled what our customers are doing.
And that's, it's pretty significant considering the scope of what you cover. So you guys have locations here in Houston, Dallas. You pretty much support the entire state of Texas, which is not a small footprint. So how is embracing cloud technologies helping you guys support customers that may be a little more remote from one of your corporate offices?
Yeah, and that's really helpful because we do a lot of risk and compliance work. We do a lot of penetration testing, a lot of assessment work, and that happens for our customers around the globe, right? Because we have a lot of customers where they have corporate offices here in Texas, but they do have offices in Asia and in Europe. And GDPR has been a big driving factor. I know that's parallel to what Microsoft's doing. And with our risk and compliance team, they also need to be enabled to understand how to move data from one area to another, what that architecture looks like, how to protect and help our customers secure that data as they're moving in and out of clouds. And I think adopting the cloud has enabled our remote workforce to really keep up with what our customers are doing. We have engineers in California and Colorado, all over the states, even though we're primarily based in Texas, and giving them the same platform to work off of as the rest of our company really enables a quality of experience with AccuData across all of our engineers.
So talk to me about some of the people that you guys have hired, because one of the things that I've heard from partners, specifically in Texas, is there is a huge labor shortage in terms of finding quality talent or finding folks that are familiar with cloud. How have you guys sort of incorporated what you're doing to overcome that?
Yeah, I think you have to approach it in 2 manners. I think it's a struggle for everyone. It's a struggle for AccuData. and it's one of those things where the 2 areas you need to focus. One, external recruiting. We adopted some cloud tools. We refocused our efforts on what type of engineers to look for and consultants to look for. And bringing those folks internally has really changed the way that we train our engineers on staff. Because it needs to be a combination of both. When we bring outside talent into AccuData, there's a learning period. They have to learn the AccuData way, they have to understand what our values are, how we work with our customers, putting the customers first. And then internally, getting our engineers understanding that cloud is a different paradigm. It's not a new box. It's not a new piece of infrastructure. Yeah, it's not a SKU. It's really a different mindset. And understanding how to talk about cloud, not just from a technology perspective, but from a consumption perspective, from a value perspective. We do need to bring some outside expertise in to help us with that. And where we've kind of focused is kind of two areas. I think meetups are a really great opportunity to find a like-minded technology evangelist. And the second piece is, as you're working with other customers, asking them for referrals. Who have you worked with that did this really, really well? And understanding how to find those individuals out there and seeing if it's a fit for AccuData and bringing them on board.
Awesome. That's absolutely outstanding. So one of the things that I was really impressed with what you guys did starting at the beginning of this year is that from a security perspective, because you mentioned GDPR, your Microsoft footprint was very, very tiny, primarily a Cisco shop, right?
Sure.
And I'd say a lot of partners in Texas probably find themselves in the same position. And you've really built out a fantastic security practice in a very short period of time. Can you kind of talk about how you incorporated some of the Microsoft elements into the existing security practice that you guys had?
Yeah, I think what we've seen from Microsoft is a real maturity in the security space. And as more and more services got rolled out within the Azure platform, within the Office 365 suite, what we saw was a great appetite within our customer base, asking about things like Intune, asking about how to be more flexible with endpoint management, asking about additional features in Exchange Online protection. And what we saw was an education from our Microsoft team to the other security folks on our team. And as we sought the recommendations from the different parts of our business talking to each other, what we saw was a real cross-pollination and education around Microsoft can do this really well, cloud services can do this really well, and we can do it at a different price point. And that's what our customers were looking for. I think what we find is not all clouds are created equal. And there's so many options out there that our customers can have that analysis paralysis. So it's really incumbent upon AccuData and other partners out there in the community to go out and educate and say, did you know that Microsoft has added 60 features in the last 6 months? Because that's the pace of innovation we're seeing in the cloud.
I know, it's almost impossible to keep up with the updates.
It's really hard. And so what we have to make sure we do a good job of is having our Microsoft team educate our standard security team, having our compliance team as they build Azure platform assessments, educating our security infrastructure team, and really talking to our other manufacturing partners, educating them and saying, you need to have a strategy here, because for a lot of security organizations, it doesn't need to be one or the other. It could be a combination of both. And we're enabling our customers to do that. We just see a higher adoption. And that's really where our focus has been.
Absolutely. I mean, the strategy is to assume breach and make sure that pretty much everything upstream and downstream has some sort of strategy around it as far as security goes.
Sure. And really, once we kind of move beyond the adoption of services, it gets into a much more critical but more valuable conversation with the customer. It gets into things around visibility. What's your incident response plan? What's your business continuity plan? Because ultimately, people don't want to invest in technologies just for technology. They want to invest technology to make sure that if we do get breached, we have a way to recover that data really quickly. We have a plan in place to enable our business to continue to function when and if that happens. And so really that's that next conversation that needs to happen with our customers. And by providing our customers with the analysis of all the options, we can make sure they're moving in the right direction.
Have you seen those conversations change sort of post-Harvey as far as, Azure geolocality, making sure you have a backup and disaster recovery plan that takes into account other geos besides, maybe you have main headquarters in Houston and maybe you have a colo in Dallas. Have you seen people sort of expand their vision after that happened this last year?
Yeah, that has been a big focus area for us. As we continue to move forward in terms of global scale, global economy, e-commerce is kind of exploding. What we find with a lot of our retail customers and our manufacturing customers is their logistics kind of spread everywhere. And so we need to make sure that they're supported everywhere. Texas has its own power grid, but obviously we are in an area that's not zero risk from a FEMA perspective. So we do see a lot of organizations taking a look at cloud as a way to enable that business continuity conversation, that disaster recovery conversation. And what we've seen some interest in now is the concept of failing from cloud to cloud. So Azure Stack Recovery to fail from one geo area to another geo area, looking at locally redundant storage versus geo redundant storage, and when it makes sense to invest in one or the other. That's all been part of the conversations, and Harvey was a big driver for that here at Houston.
Nice. So we've talked a lot about the mature Microsoft technologies as far as disaster recovery, security, things that have come a long way from where they started. What's something that's sort of new on the horizon that you guys are tinkering with, testing out? Maybe it's not ready for prime time, but it's a technology that you guys are interested in potentially pursuing.
Yeah, a really great pilot that we started is Microsoft Teams. That's something that we're really excited about. On my team, we do all of our one-on-ones in Teams. There's a conversation around governance now because it's such a hot topic within the conversation. We need to make sure that we're putting the right governance around Teams before we roll it out company-wide. But that's a really great area where I see that as a shift in cloud adoption. Cloud adoption at the beginning was, let's reduce kind of the maintenance, let's reduce some of the administrative overhead. And where we're seeing as the next wave is, what other features can we get out of it? So I think Teams is going to be a big driver on that. The ability to add Power BI as an app inside of Teams, that's where we're investing heavily. I've got another person on my team doing training for Power BI right now. So I think that's where the next step is. We meet with a lot of customers where they're collecting a lot of data, but they're not doing any analysis of that data because it's really hard for them to do it. It's really expensive. They have to buy a lot of equipment. And really, cloud is the right use case for that. So we do have some oil and gas customers that are in Azure today that use it to analyze big data sets. And they do it for a customer for a very specific amount of time. And when they're done, they archive that data out and they spin it all down. So that's really powerful. And that's really where our next step is, really kind of figuring out how to leverage cloud services to gain insight in years and years of data. Because what you find here in Texas is people don't get rid of their data. They just hold on it forever. That geoscience survey, that survey from the 1970s, they'll hang on to it even though that doesn't bring much value, but they'll hang on to it and one day it may. So that's really the conversation that we need to make sure we have with our customers. And if you're holding on to that data, let's find a way to analyze it in an effective way, in a cost-effective way, in a quick way, and make sure we can uncover some value since you're holding on to that data.
Anything else we want to, this has been fantastic. Yeah. Anything else from an AccuData perspective you think we should highlight or would be really important as a takeaway for anyone who's watching the broadcast?
Yeah, I think the last thing I want to lead with is, I think cloud is an interesting investment point because every single customer we talk to has a cloud-first mentality. Yeah. But for a lot of organizations, that doesn't mean 100% in the cloud. And so I think as Microsoft's introduced things like Azure Stack on-prem and giving new cost models out there, I think that's going to probably be the next journey, right? Making sure we have the right mix of what lives in the cloud, what lives on-prem, and how all that is powered by Microsoft. And I think as the organization continues to change within Microsoft, adopting that flexibility that cloud gives you, I think we're going to see more consumption models where some of that is on-prem and some that's on the cloud. So I think that's the next wave. And I think as partners look to invest, I think they need to be aware that that's probably that next area where there can be a lot of innovation.
Absolutely. There was sort of this rush at the beginning, let's throw everything in the cloud and see what happens. Yeah. And now it's taking a more measured approach, and that's a fantastic thing about partners like AccuData is the experience that you guys have sort of in both worlds, right? The traditional on-prem world and now the cloud world. You can go into a customer environment and look at everything they're doing and make an honest assessment. I mean, some workloads run better in an on-prem scenario, some run better in the cloud, and there's hybrid options like Azure Stack that you can look at. Yeah. And having that sort of pan data center approach and even looking at workloads and figuring out, we've always run this on-prem. Do we even need to run the server anymore? Is there a service we can run in Azure? Is there an appliance that can do this instead? Sure. Like those are the fun conversations to have with customers.
Yeah, and that's why we're all excited to continue to work here at AccuData. So appreciate the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it, sir.
Well, that was a great interview with the great Kat Daniels and Tan Nguyen. So, Kat, I want to throw it back over to you and see if you want to give us any of your last thoughts on this interview or what you think of the final result.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's really interesting. I interviewed these two partners, 2 completely separate days. We didn't do topics ahead of time, so it was very free form. And it's interesting that, on the subject of digital transformation, something that shines through in both of their interviews is the amount of investment that they're putting into their people. So we always think of digital transformation as something that's being software and hardware driven, right? It's something where we have this great AI algorithm, or we have this neat piece of hardware and it's enabling all these solutions. But at the end of the day, it's really the people at these organizations that are making things happen. And the more that you invest in your employees, and the more effort you go into training and recruiting the right type of folks to help make those type of solutions successful, that's the digital transformation. The software and the hardware is really cool, but it's the people that make all of this happen. And I think that's probably one of the neatest things that came out of both of these interviews is that's sort of a feeling that's shared by a lot of folks in the industry.
Wow, that's fantastic. All right, so let's go ahead and we don't need to roll the transition tape here, but let's just talk about our next section, which really, partnering with the Microsoft Store. So this is actually near and dear to my heart. And when Kat, when you came over or was talking to me about how you're going to interview the Microsoft Store, I was like, man, this is wonderful, right? This is a great idea because it really kind of frames how they can help you. So, when I was a partner, the way I looked at the Microsoft Store was a great lead source because the Microsoft Store has what we call, there's two types of business, people that you can interface with. One is the BSS and the other one is the CDS. The BSS is the business sales specialist and the CDS is the community development specialist, right? Well, they don't do MSP services inside the store. Okay, not like Apple does. Apple, you go in there and that's where you bring your computer. That's why it's always so full. Everyone says, why is it so full and why is Microsoft Store so empty? Well, we actually want our partners to make money. They don't. They want you to come into their office, to their place and make it look, artificially busy, but really it's not. So with the store though, is they are, constantly interfacing with customers who are buying equipment, right? But they also then need to install the equipment. And I always looked at it as I was a partner as a great way to bring business to the store as well as to get business from the store. But what did I give up? Because you got to give up something. They're not going to just always give it to you for free, right? And what I gave up was specifically some of my hardware purchases. Okay, I wasn't hardly making any margin anyways, and it was heavy on my books, right? As well as taking responsibility for it. When I would go to the store, I would say, hey, something I want to order, X amount of computers. Go ahead and set these up. Just issue the purchase order and deliver it. Right, deliver it to that my customer, and they would do that. But then I was building these relationships, and let me tell you, I've gotten some amazing referrals out of that store. Maybe I'll just ask Eric real quick. What is your experience with partnering with the store?
Totally agree with you. We worked here in Southern California with several of the Microsoft stores in the Orange County and LA area. It has been a fantastic relationship. Both from a lead generation standpoint, but also from the standpoint of also having them as a resource to be able to go to for some things that we just don't have to provide. You hit on it exactly. There are some pieces of the IT services world where the margins are not great. So why not just let the stores take that stuff on? They provide a great resource for the customers. Also, you can do events with the stores. Sherman touched on the community development folks. That can be a fantastic resource for you if you want to host events to be able to do it. And they'll open the store before the store opens. They'll let you come in. I've done events starting at 7, 8 a.m. Usually because they're retail operations, the stores don't open until something on the order of usually 10 a.m. So you can get a couple 3 hours in the store all to yourself to be able to bring clients in and host an event in the store setting without having 100 people in there potentially being disruptive. So it's a great resource from that standpoint for partners also.
That's really great. That's fantastic. The thing is, why don't we have Kat set up this next interview? Kat?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was at the Houston store for a Microsoft 365 security. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, yeah, we got you.
All right, cool. So I was at the Houston office doing a Microsoft 365 security workshop with Donnie Severson, who's one of the specialists for the Microsoft store there in Houston. And so we got to talking about his role and kind of what happens in you know, what happens as far as how his store engages with partners. And to me, that was probably one of the most surprising things is that level of partnership and engagement and sort of the lead sharing and really how those stores support partners. So I grabbed Donnie and shot a quick video with him. So that's what we're going to show you is that interview. And then Donnie's also on the IM if you guys want to ask him questions. I'm Kat Daniels with Microsoft, and this is Donnie Severson with the Microsoft Store.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and so today we're here in the Houston office to talk about the Microsoft Store and how the Microsoft Store works with partners. So Donnie, we actually met at a conference that you guys were helping out with. So kind of talk about what that experience was.
Yeah, so we met at the IAMCP conference in Austin, and we were there really just to showcase, one, what the Microsoft stores can do for our partners, but also show that we're there for support, right? We're not here to intrude on anybody's relationship. We're just here to, help build it all and bridge the gap between what some people are missing.
So one of the things that I hear from partners, like, myth or reality, is that you can't sell Surface through distribution. It's too difficult. So talk about what that experience looks like working with the store instead.
So I could tell you that working directly with Surface from the store, we get all of our stuff directly from our central distribution center, right? So we have these devices in store for clients to come in and pick up, swap out. Typically, if someone has an issue, they just need to bring it in store, and we have technicians that can help facilitate that, right? So nobody has to be without a device for weeks on end. And on top of that, we're able to provide what others would call Microsoft direct pricing. So we're able to help provide a little bit more incentive on the end user versus just going on to Best Buy or going on to Amazon to purchase their devices and wait for it to come.
So one of the coolest things, because I had an opportunity to see you do a quote while we were hanging out at the conference.
Right.
One of the things that was really neat is you guys have the ability to quote against state contracts.
Yes.
Which is kind of a big deal if you're a smaller partner and you're not on a state contract. So talk about that.
So something that our Microsoft stores are able to do is we have already pre-negotiated state contracts with like Texas DIR to provide those non-bid discounts to our smaller government entities, right? Okay. So instead, the IT person running into Best Buy to purchase that Surface device that they need, right? They can call up the local Microsoft store, get a hold of their business specialist, and they'll be able to provide those set discounts without having to say, oh, well, how many devices are you buying? What model are you looking at, right? It's all just one set firm discount.
Nice. So those are the things that I know about
right.
from the time we spent working together. What's something I don't know about working with a store that partners really, really appreciate?
So the major thing that a lot of partners start coming to appreciate more is our ability to provide a lot of free trainings to their end users. So you'll see in some instances you'll get those one-offs where a company might need just basic Outlook training around to maybe 10 users, right? And sometimes, that might be something that either, you might not want to deal with as a partner because it's so small and it might not do a whole lot. Whereas the stores, our showrooms have community development specialists that are able to set these up, and we can go out there and provide those free trainings to the end clients, right? Teams, Word, Excel. Some stores, a lot of stores have certified people to handle this type of stuff and provide those either in store, because a lot of the stores are always running free workshops and free summer camps and stuff like that for kids and adults. But we can go out to the client and facilitate those maybe end relationships that some partners might not want to have to really worry about maintaining.
And that's kind of a feather in your cap. I mean, you are the Microsoft partner that has a hookup at the store, and you're going to get someone who shows up in a very nice Microsoft polo, who's going to talk about Microsoft products. So you don't have to take your full-time resources that are very, expensive resources and have them do, Excel 101, Outlook 101, partner with the store and let you guys deliver that training.
And in the end, we understand that we need our partners to survive, right? Our partners are the lifeblood of what we do. So we're not going to go in there and try to swoop in on a transaction or try to swoop in on an order, because in the end, we want to make sure that the customer is getting the best relationship. So we're really here to make sure that we intertwine our partners with our customers and kind of be that glue or maintain that sticky factor in the end of all of it. I mean, we all know that the more the customers use their products, that they're going to keep using it and keep, renewing. And we want to make sure that all Microsoft customers are familiar with it, right? Even if it's on Apple, we can help facilitate trainings on Apple, mobile devices. Those are all little things that we can do.
Nice. So if you're a Microsoft partner and you've never worked with a store before, do I just call the store and I ask for their business sales specialist? I mean, what does that process look like for a partner?
So for a partner, the easiest way to kind of go through and do it is, yes, to just go to the, you can go to Microsoft.com, look up locations and find the location nearest to you, and then find out from there. You could call up and say, hey, I want to speak to the business sales specialist, and they'll typically recommend and they'll get them passed through. As well as every location will have a business expert, or what we call a community development specialist, a CDS. So it really depends on what avenue they're looking for. If they're looking for training, that would be the community development specialist. If they're looking for someone to help provide pricing or a quote, right? In a lot of instances, we are able to provide quotes rapid. We're not going to make a partner wait 2 weeks to get a price on a surface, right? We could do this real fast and get it done. So they can call up the business specialist. Usually have it, once they make that initial call, the BSS will give them their email and their phone number, so they'll always have that direct line and be able to reach out to them.
Nice. So did they reach out to you directly for the facial grooming advice?
Man, you know what?
Because that is fantastic.
Some things I've learned in humidity, especially in Texas, is you have to use gel. So I've started using got to be glued gel to keep this thing, upright and going. It doesn't work out so well in this humidity.
I know, I came to Houston and immediately my haircut sort of just...
Right. Yeah. And then when I came, my haircut started falling too, so you're okay.
Well, Donnie, I really appreciate you taking some time. I know you're here at the Houston office for some training, but I really appreciate you taking some time to talk to our partners about how they can partner with the Microsoft Store and have a lot of success. Yeah,
and if any of them have any issues trying to get into their store, if they want to email me, my email is dosever@microsoft.com, and I can get them into contact with the right Microsoft BSS in that location. And yeah, I have no problem help bridge those gaps.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Kat. I appreciate it.
Wow, that was really great. And Donnie, thank you so much for coming on and really talking about how you work with partners and how the store can be available to partners, for opportunities. Really do appreciate that. Anyone has any questions, please go to the text window, and you'll go ahead and ask Donnie any questions. So this is the end. This is the end. Last few minutes here. Just want to say thank you once again to everyone who's joined. Kat, thank you very much. We really do appreciate everything that you did today. Really do. Thank you. And also thank you to our sponsors. So Arrow was one of our very first sponsors, and we want to say thank you very much for coming on. We really do appreciate it. PAX 8 another distributor, great distributor, has some great offerings, really the partner of tomorrow type of stuff. We had D&H come on, which was really fantastic. Really appreciate everything that they've done. And ConnectWise, which was really an enlightening experience in a way that we really helped to show how tools can help partners be profitable. With that being said, thank you again, everyone. Have a great day, great 4th of July, and we'll see you in August. Bye-bye. Hey there, my name is Sherman Crancer, and I'm the Senior Partner Channel Development Manager here at Microsoft and the host of the panel, Strategies from the Titans of Sales and Industry. If you're interested in understanding how you can build large margins through packages, if you're interested in how to create differentiation within the marketplace, or simply you want to understand the latest cutting-edge sales and marketing techniques, make sure you join us each week on Fridays from 9 to 10 a.m. Thanks so much, and have a great day. Bye-bye.